Wall Street Memes Casino,
I'm fine.
and Sportsbook.
This is Colm McGuigan for IFLTV. Eduardo Hearn in Philadelphia. First time in Philadelphia, Edward? First time Philadelphia first show? For me? For you? No?
First, no. I mean, clearly you've come into this interview without doing any research, anything. I mean, when you think really that you are a member of the media, like, do you do any research or do you just
wing each interview?
Colm, go to Philadelphia and you go right there and you turn up here, you don't really know what you're doing. Like, you don't sit in your room at night going through stats or history or prepping questions. You just, there is absolutely no...
When have you been to Philadelphia before, Edward?
When I promoted Tevin Farmer for the world title and also a unification for Katie Taylor when she boxed.
What year was that?
It was 2000 and... want to say 19, could say 20.
Delighted to be back?
Delighted to be back, especially with how well it's gone. I mean, we're absolutely flying in America at the moment. If you look at the run of events that we're on and the crowds that we're doing as well. Subriel Matias against Liam Paro, 9,000 in Puerto Rico. Bam against Estrada, 9,000 in Phoenix. Now we're expecting close to 13,000 on Saturday for Boots. As I said to you, it's the biggest crowd in Philadelphia for 50 years. And the city knows they have a real superstar on their hands. And I like the fight. I know Carl Greaves, Neil Marsh, they're bang up for it, as is Avanesian. And he'll give it everything. He's dangerous. But I expect Boots to look sensational.
When this fight was announced, it was Cody Crowley. There was a lot of discussion then when Avanesian came in that it's actually maybe a better fight, more interesting fight. But maybe to the US fight fans, they'll look at it and Avanesian, a bit of an unknown name. I know, like, he's fought some big names, but also kind of over here he's not made a mark like he has in the UK, like for example against Josh Kelly. But do you believe that Jerome Boots Ennis can get him out of there in devastating fashion and put on a show for the US audience? Because that's what they're looking for.
I mean, that's the pressure of him to do that. And I think, look, the reality is we don't really know how Cody Crowley would have performed. He was undefeated. He was the mandatory, but he'd never really beaten anyone. Seemed like a nice bloke. I think he would have given it everything. But I don't think he would have had the firepower and the ruggedness of David Avanesian. Like, he's a right handful, Avanesian. And he won't stop trying to win. But I do think the style should probably sit quite well with Boots. Boots has got fantastic movement, punch selection, IQ. He can hit as well. I think he's a massive welterweight, and I believe he wins the fight by stoppage. However, as we've seen over the last few months and over the last few years, sometimes the homecoming doesn't always work out. Look at Matias the other week. It's just little distractions. Go back to like Regis's first fight with us in New Orleans. There's a lot of pressure to perform. I think the real special ones can do it. And I think if Boots gets it right on Saturday, with the promotion he's had, with the crowd he's got in there, and with the potential he has, I think it's just going to go astronomical, in terms of his profile. Already we're seeing massive numbers, not just at the ticket sales, but everything we do across social. Everything, people talking about Boots, the excitement, the belief around him. And this is his step. This is his first fight kind of out of the shadows. This is the Boot show, and it's his time to shine.
I don't want to look past David Avanesian because it'd be wrong to do so, and I think he showed before that he can upset the apple cart. But in terms of next for Boots Ennis, is it big fights only? Is it the big names in the divisions? What do you want for Boots Ennis next?
Yeah, I think the difficulty when you've got someone as good as Boots is building the profile big enough that the fight with him is worth a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think you're going to look at Boots and go, yeah, I want to fight Boots. He's the problem in the division. So now when you're looking at guys like Stanionis, you're looking at guys like Barrios, a lot of their big paydays is going to come from a Boots Ennis fight. But are they willing to put their belt on the line to try and beat him? And that's our job, to make sure that we can make those big fights. I remember when we had Demetrius Andrade, and look, Boots is a very different fighter to Demetrius, but Demetrius was also very good. No one wanted to fight him And there wasn't really the value of fighting Demetrius Andrade. That was the problem. So we must make sure that we deliver for Boots and deliver him the big fights. It's inevitable he's going to move to 154. And everyone talks about Boots against Crawford. And yeah, it is. That is one of the biggest fights that can be made in boxing. I actually think Madrimov's going to beat Crawford. I know he's a big underdog to do it, but I think he can do it. If he doesn't, I want to make Boots against Crawford at 154 next year. But before he goes there, we've got to make the most of the division and try and be in those unifications as well.
In terms of Stanionis, Barrios, you mentioned there, I guess the question to you that probably a lot of US fight fans have is, well, how are you going to make those unifications? Those two are with PBC now. They've both tied down contracts. Do you believe those fights are hard to make, Eddie?
I mean, you're seeing now, with Riyadh season and promoters working together, who knows? I just feel that hopefully those guys have the appetite for unifications, but it's going to come down to money. We've got to try and get the money together to give those guys the biggest paydays we can to face Boots. Now we know, we do well over $1 million gate on Saturday. A unification against Barrios, Stanionis, it's going to fill the whole place up. So we know we've got firepower to do it commercially. It's just trying to get it over the line, and after this, Boots will of course fight one more time this year, and that will be October, November, December, and we want it to be the biggest fight possible.
Conor Benn, possibly?
I mean, with Conor Benn, it's now just a case of him having his conversations with UCAD and getting a finalised date, because the backwards and forwards and preparing and training and all this kind of stuff, we just want a definitive date when we know he can fight. It's now been 2 years since the tests, and it's extremely frustrating, but hopefully the end is near to be able to say that is the date he can definitely fight. Boots against Conor Benn is a huge fight in Philadelphia. It's a huge fight in London. It's a huge fight in Riyadh or anywhere in the world. But until we get that final date, it's difficult to plan the future and potential fights.
How come in the Ryan Garcia situation we can get such a quick turnaround? He's already got his
admission of guilt, really. I mean, whatever way Ryan wants to do it, the lawyers would have gone in and gone, look, sorry, not the best, but how do we move forward? Is there a deal to be done? The problem with Conor, and I admire him for it, but it's cost him, is his complete drive to prove his innocence and not accept. I don't want to drop anyone in it because it's not our style, but there's been a lot of people in positions of power that have said to us, look, the best thing to do is just take it on the chin, take the ban and do a deal. But Conor's never, if I said to Conor, look, let's just go in and do a deal, and he's like, do a fucking deal on what? Well, basically it's almost like an admission of guilt. And he's never prepared to do that. He could have done that the day, the week of it happening, and he'd be fighting by now in Britain. But because he's gone through so many different processes and never been willing to just say, all right, let's do a deal, it's cost him. Because if you think, the amount of the levels in Ryan Garcia's test were well beyond the levels of Conor Benn's test, right? And Ryan, and some may say smartly, went in and did a deal with a commission. If he hadn't have done a deal with the commission and went through a really lengthy hearing process, he might have been out for 2 years. But I don't really like that. You've got Julio Cesar Martinez. What did he get? 6 months? And then you've got Conor Benn, 2 years in, still waiting because he keeps going through all these hearings and trying to prove his innocence. And it's a bit of a joke, really. But we are where we are. I think he's made some mistakes, but I also admire him for not backing down and saying, no, I don't want to do a deal. People even said to him, why don't you just say that you took this by accident? And he said, because I didn't. I'm not fucking I'm not going in there and making up a story about what happened. You see others go, oh yeah, it was in this supplement. Test that, stick a load of whatever it is in there. It's not his style. So I admire him for it. It's probably cost him, but hopefully the end is near.
Eddie, I want to get your thoughts on a few things. I don't know if you heard Simon Jordan's comments on AJ Dubois. Have you heard those?
Yeah, that if he gets hit on the chin, he could get hurt, and but fucking obviously. I mean, what what makes me laugh is, what is the narrative of AJ don't have a good chin? I mean, go back and watch. I'm going to start by watching the Dillian White fight, where he got hit and buzzed by a left hook that would have knocked out a horse, and then took a load of shots in that fight, come through when he was really a novice, basically. Then fights Klitschko. Watch the 5th and 6th round of the Vladimir Klitschko fight and ask me if AJ has a good chin. He got hit by the kitchen sink by one of the biggest punchers in the division. He got dropped from a right hand that would have decapitated an average man. Got up and stopped Vladimir Klitschko in the 11th round. He got hit with shots from Parker, never rocked. He got hit by some big shots from Povetkin. He got dropped and hurt by Ruiz when he probably shouldn't have been in the ring, but it is what it is. He got concussed in that fight. He kept getting up, but couldn't control, unfortunately was concussed. He won the rematch. He fought Alexander Usyk twice and got hit by, particularly in the first fight, the absolute kitchen sink from Alexander Usyk. He was never out on his feet. He was never close to going down. I think he was tired in the last 20 seconds. That was about it. You saw Tyson Fury fighting, was gone, out, falling out all over the ring. He got hit by Jarrell Miller, by Jermaine Franklin. I mean, AJ's chin is fine. However, if you get hit by a massive puncher in the division, you could be in trouble. And Daniel Dubois is a massive puncher. So, yeah, Simon Jordan saying, oh, if AJ gets hit on the chin by Daniel Dubois, I mean, fucking well done. I mean, expert analysis if ever I saw it. By the way, if Daniel Dubois gets hit on the chin by Anthony Joshua, he's in fucking big trouble. So that's why it's a great fight. 2 massive punches. But I don't understand the narrative of AJ's frail. I mean, fuck me. He's been in with everybody. The last thing is he's frail. But if you get hit flush on the chin from Dubois, you don't want to be there. And that's why it's such an intriguing fight. 2 massive punches.
In terms of other news today, Eubank Jr. signed with Boxer on a long-term promotional deal, they state. There's a video out of the promotion in Vegas and stuff, and a lot of talk about Canelo Eubank being next. Just your thoughts on that, Eddie? Yeah,
we spoke to Eubank. I mean, but they told us that it's not a promotional deal, it's a partnership. I don't know what that means, but our conversations with Eubank were for a warm-up. He wants a warm-up fight. He hasn't boxed for a year. I get it. We were willing to give him that warm-up fight, but then he had to fight Conor Benn next. And he wanted 2 gimme fights. Say gimme fight, you know what I mean? Like one-sided waste of time commercially. But sometimes you do that because you want to get the Conor Benn fight. So we were only willing to give him 1 of those, but Boxer were willing to give him 2. So he said, I'm going to do those 2 fights and then I'd like to fight Conor Benn. So we'll speak down the line. I don't know if he's fight. I don't think he's going to fight Canelo. I mean, 1, I could imagine the type of money that Eubank will be asking to fight Canelo. And 2, bear in mind his desire for these warm-up fights. Unless the money's massive, I just can't see him doing it because he's not stupid. He knows he'll get absolutely tonked everywhere. I mean, Conor Benn would tonk him everywhere. So I think you're likely to see him fight in August, September in a gimme fight, and then another gimme fight in November, December. And then when we've got the date for Conor, we'll see if that fight can be made.
Do you believe you can make that fight, and will it be 2025?
Fucking who knows? I mean, we've been talking about it forever, but yeah, I still think commercially it's the biggest fight for both of them. So they told Frank Smith they want to make that fight, so they said, let us do these 2 fights and then we'll try and get it done. But Conor Benn's not waiting around for Chris Eubank, but Conor Benn still needs that date that we can say that's his next fight.
Shakur Stevenson with another win at the weekend, and afterwards kind of came out and said that he will be leaving Top Rank, and he has named you and Floyd Mayweather as 2 possible destinations. First question, Eddie, have you spoke to Shakur?
I spoke to him yesterday, only by message, just to say about coming on Saturday, which he's going to do. I think, people always try and run narratives, like in this game. It's a sport where people will make up shit to try and put you in a bad position. try and spin different narratives, positive and negative. The fact of the matter is that right now, Shakur Stevenson is one of the most talked about fighters on the planet. Let's be honest. You know, whether you're criticising his performance, whether you're praising his performance, whether you're talking about his promotional deal expiring, whether you're talking about potential fights, when you're talking about if he's overrated, underrated, everybody's talking about Shakur Stevenson. His ratings on ES, you have to understand, right now is Shakur Stevenson against the world. He has no one in his corner, no voice, no megaphone, no platform. Everybody knew that he was leaving Top Rank. So Top Rank, Bob, are never going to say anything positive about him, and haven't since they knew that fact, which was probably like a year ago, right? The fact of the matter is, number one, he drew a really big crowd in Newark. Nothing was said. Number two, it was the highest ratings on ESPN this year. No one's saying anything about it. Do you know what I mean? So the problem that Shakur has at the moment is he's spending his time on social media and Twitter fighting all his own battles. Our job is to give him the megaphone, the platform, and when he's sleeping, we're working. The promotional vehicle is working and it's firing on Shakur Stevenson. And it ain't difficult for me to make Shakur Stevenson a star. I mean, I think he's already a star, but there's so many more levels that he can go to, but he's doing it single-handedly. And it's very difficult, it's very arduous, and it's very tiring as well to have to do. So I think when I look at it, and I've said before, Shakur Stevenson for me is a pound-for-pound talent. I don't think that he's always going to be in the most exciting fights, coming forward with his chin in the air, going down, trading. That's not his style. He's just unbelievably technically gifted, and he's going to be very difficult to beat. Now, one of the problems is the matchmaking. When they improve the matchmaking, or someone does, and he's in real fights, that's when you're going to see the best Shakur Stevenson, when he's fighting Tank. I mean, I like the Williams-Zepeda fight as well. I think it's a great fight. So I look at it and say, this is bread and butter to me. Look at what I've done with Jerron Ennis. In what, 4 or 5 months? The kid's going to be part of the biggest show in Philadelphia in 50 years. You wait till you see that Wells Fargo Centre on Saturday. Fucking jumping. And if he looks good on Saturday night, a superstar is born in the sport of boxing. It's easy for me to do a job with Shakur. He's got to buy into it. There's work to be done, you know? But I think the ceiling of Shakur is endless. I mean, he's a young American kid, great talent, like from Newark, can beat everybody. It's easy. But we'll see if we're on the same page. And, you know, maybe he chooses to have a fight with us. Maybe he chooses to have 3 fights with us. Maybe he chooses to have 5 fights with us. I think, you know, if I'm advising him right now and not his promoter, I'm saying you need a short-term plan, really, because you don't want to rule yourself out of the big fights by being aligned to a specific network and promoter. If I'm honest, might weaken my position, but I'm just being honest. Like, I think he needs to fight Tank. I think he needs to fight, you know, Tiafimo or whoever it might be.
What would you do differently?
What I would do differently is give him a voice as well as his own. I would give him a megaphone of me behind him, telling the world how great he is every single day. I would push the promotion in Newark and try and double the crowd. I would make sure you make the right fights. I would do a promotional job on him that he's never seen before. But also, what is the plan? And for me, the fight to make is Williams-Zepeda. I think style-wise, that's a great fight for him. I think Zepeda is so exciting. He's building a great fan base as well. And that's probably what I would do. You know, obviously Zepeda's with DAZN, Golden Boy. I would go to DAZN and say, let's make a massive fight there. But what I don't want to do is take Shakur on and give him the same kind of fights that he's in at the moment, because they're a waste of money and they're a waste of time. He don't want to be in them either. He wants to be in real fights, and that's what we've got to try and do.
He said it was down to you and Floyd Mayweather. Why you and not Floyd?
Floyd's not a promoter. What do you think? Floyd wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, goes to bed at 1 o'clock, and works fucking 20 hours a day on his fighters, on promotions. No, Floyd's Floyd. Listen, Floyd's a legend. But let's be honest. I mean, he don't have any TV dates. I have an ego. Fuck me. He's on another level. But he just, Floyd is a great, say, role model. He's someone that's fantastic to talk to for fighters. But you need a global organisation. We've got nearly 100 staff globally. We're an absolute promotional and commercial powerhouse. And that's what you need. Not some bloke that's going to pick up the phone every couple of weeks and go, hey, how you doing? How's sparring going? Like, how many people work for Mayweather Promotions? Absolutely no idea. But Floyd knows boxing. Floyd was a great fighter. But for me, this next move for Shakur Stevenson is the most important of his career. You can fuck it up, or you can get it right and take over the world.
Eddie, a few quick ones before I let you go. You've announced that Johnny Fisher will feature on the Manchester card. Who's that likely to be against? I know a lot of names have been thrown out there, maybe the likes of Nathan Gorman. Or...
Yeah, someone that can give us rounds. That's the most important thing. I mean, first round win on Saturday. When he was in Vegas, first round win. It's like, before we jump in those really deep tests, you've got to be doing rounds. So we'll get probably an international opponent, decent name, tough man, that can take him a few rounds, but he's a real problem for the division. I mean, I said to you before this interview, like, we've seen some guys commanding big ticket sales and crowds, Cattrall, obviously Cattrall Taylor, Josh Warrington. This is something very fresh. Copper Box was unbelievable on Saturday, and we will return there early in the new year. This is probably Johnny's last fight in Britain this year, because we look to take him to Australia for the Paro show at the end of the year, and then headline in the Copper Box. So for me, a very, very exciting journey. And I think Johnny's going to surprise a lot of people.
In terms of Johnny, a lot of people have been talking about the Dave Allen fight. They were on Instagram Live together talking about that. Are you concerned about the criticism of that fight, or do you believe that you could make it happen?
I mean, Johnny's still a novice, really. So I don't think he should be criticised about any fights he takes, certainly around that level. I think Dave Allen is a good fighter, and I think he'll definitely give Johnny Fisher rounds, and he'll give him things to think about. But I need to see a little bit more from Dave Allen. And I like Dave's honesty at the moment, which is basically, look, I need a couple of fights. Otherwise, I don't think I can beat you. And I don't want to fight you unless I think I can beat you. So I think Dave's got a fight coming up. I think if he fights one more time this year and shows that he's in form and he's up for it, I have no problem with that fight. I think Dave Allen, subject to how he looked in a couple of fights. David Adelaide, Sol Dakers, maybe the loser of Wardley against Clark. They're the ones we've got to look to headline with in the very early part of 2025. So the map out for Johnny Fisher is August 24th, Cattrall against Prograis, fight in Australia, then headline back at the Copper Box, which, next time will completely fill up.
On that Manchester card, are we likely to see the likes of Zelfa Barrett added?
Not Zelfa, but at least one more championship fight. So at the moment, we're pretty stacked on the card, but we need one, maybe two more championship fights, and that'll be announced this week.
Who's the likely opponent for Liam Paro in Australia, and what month are we likely to see that land?
The winner of Cattrall against Prograis, Devin Haney, and a lot of people in Australia talking about Liam Paro against George Kambosos. Big all-Australian fight, chance for George to become a two-division world champion. But, the plan for Liam Paro, we're speaking to various governments at the moment within the States to have a big homecoming fight in November.
Eddie, you mentioned in an interview with me maybe about 2 months ago that you were speaking to 4 pound-for-pound fighters. I'll say Shakur being one of those, probably. Who are the other 3?
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
It's a bit of an idea because...
They're all pound-for-pound top 15 on everybody's list.
And they're free agents?
Yeah, I wouldn't be talking to anyone that wasn't a free agent.
Any other clues other than that?
No. Go and look at the top 15 pound for pound. Go and play a little game with yourself this evening. Keep you occupied in your room tonight. And then ask me tomorrow. And you can ask me the names, and I will give you my attempt at no facial reaction. And you can try and interrogate me in front of the world and see if you can notice a smirk or a wink that will tell you who they might be.
Eddie, a few more. Alicia Baumgardner, it's been a few months since the purse bid was won between Baumgardner and Pursoon. Obviously, Is there difficulties putting that together? Is
Not
it
many.
gonna...
I mean, I didn't win the purse bid. So,
Well, did have an agreement with Alicia before that, yeah?
yeah, but once we lose the purse bid, that's her final fight of her deal. So we're talking to Alicia about extending that deal, but it's with the winner of that purse bid to put the fight on, and not put the fight on with additional options for Alicia Baumgardner, or, you know, it's a straight WBC bout agreement. Come on, you've had more than enough time. Let's get the fight done. It's a really good fight. Baumgardner against Pursoon. Proper fight. So Alicia's frustrated, but just waiting for that date from the winner of the purse bid and get that fight done.
Bam Rodriguez, after that sensational win against Estrada, Chocolatito's now came out and said that he's open to the fight, which you weren't aware of because you said Mr. Honda didn't really want it.
Yeah, I think, look, both guys are open to the fight, but it's going to come down to Tekken and Mr. Honda, who both guys have a huge amount of respect for. And in the past, he doesn't want to put his fighters in with his fighters. I love the fight. Estrada has a rematch clause, of which we'll find out soon if he wants to exercise. I love the Puma Martinez unification fight. Obviously, he just won in Japan with a huge win, and also Chocolatito. So I do think it will go in that order. Estrada's got the option, Puma Martinez unification, or Chocolatito. But you'll see Bam fight one more time this year.
Last one. Bit of an idea on the locations. You know, you've spoke about Diego Pacheco in LA. Are we close to getting that one? Is it going to be maybe Jason Quigley, Podrick McCrory?
It could be LA, but also don't forget we've got August 3rd in LA with Riyadh season. So, you know, it's only 5 weeks apart. But, you know, I think we'll have to see. Obviously, it's going to be a huge crowd August 3rd as well. So, but Diego will fight in September. We're very close to announcing the opponent. And
Either of the Irish guys I've mentioned there have a chance?
I don't think so. But this week we will announce 3 new shows altogether.
Will they be US shows or?
One in the US, one in the UK, one in Mexico.
Eddie, final one. How did England get it done today? Is it coming home?
I believe we win in style today. I think we're going to peak at the perfect time. Like, last match, much better. I would like to say this as well. Like, imagine being those penalty takers. Like, England, historically, we always balls it up on the penalties, don't we? And also, we're so negative. And I feel like in our country as well, it's like we're almost waiting for someone to fuck up so we can jump on them and abuse them and put them down. And if you look historically, like the guys that have missed penalties, like, it actually sits with them forever. And they get so much stick and abuse when they miss a penalty. Imagine stepping up like Tony or these boys, you know, and what they've showed is plenty of cojones, a lot of bottle. And I think that's a great sign for us. And I think that victory will lift them so much. I wouldn't be surprised if we won well today. And if we can win well today, we're going to the final against Spain. Very, very tough match. But I think we can do it. So 3 o'clock today, we'll be tuned in Philadelphia for the big one. Get up the boys.
Eddie Hearn, always a pleasure. Thanks, mate.
Oh, last thing. I know your name.
You're getting there.
Thank you.
Wall Street Memes Casino
I'm fine.
and Sportsbook.